Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by two sponsors, well, like 1.5 sponsors. We are brought to you by Coffee Fest. Coffee Fest is happening in Los Angeles this time next week, actually, between the 25th and the 27th of August. I will be there. I loved going to Coffee Fest in Los Angeles last year. I noticed that I went not knowing what to expect. It had been my first Coffee Fest in Los Angeles, and I thought I might be able to see some friends and catch up with them. I actually ended up going and doing a fuck ton of business over there and was really shocked by that. They had great exhibitors, and I'm not just saying this because they are a sponsor. I had planned on going to Coffee Fest this year, whether they were going to be a sponsor or not, because it was so successful for my business. And this year I'm going back to do more business. I'm going back to meet people and see what's on offer. And the other thing that I really enjoyed about Coffee Fest was that it was fun. Like, I'm not massively into latte art competitions, but watching the latte art competition was fun. And going and seeing the other exhibitions that are there as well that travel with Coffee Fest. So there's like a food suppliers convention that's happening there as well. And you can go and attend that with your Coffee Fest pass. So at no extra cost. Now, if you want to go, there's a code in the comment section or the show notes below, depending on where you're watching this. There is a 50% discount code. So go ahead, grab that and order your ticket online. If you do get your ticket online, it will be $30 with the discount code that we have. If you go to Coffee Fest, you can still use that discount code by just showing up and using it. Tickets there will be $75 and you'll get 50% off that. So I hope to see you there. The other sponsor for today's episode of the podcast is a workshop, I'm tripping over my words there, a workshop that Dr. Jamie Berry and I are holding in Australia on the 21st of September of this year. It is called Assertiveness for the Hospitality Industry, very heavily focused on the coffee industry though. It will be the thing that changes the way that you move within your career and your business. I am convinced that the two things that are going to absolutely change the culture behind the coffee industry is open-mindedness and assertiveness training. So I'm doing everything that I can to bring our industry affordable assertiveness training. So please, if you are in Sydney or Australia or want to go to Sydney, this is a really great opportunity to do that. If you're flying from outside of, let's say you're flying from the US, tickets are $1,000 return right now. So come down 21st of September. It's a full day workshop. Your ticket includes food and coffee for the day, thanks to our sponsors, which we'll be announcing very soon. And the tickets are currently, they're usually $75. Currently, they're $65 for the early bird special, available till the 21st of August. Now, today on the Daily Coffee Pro, we are talking about something that is super fresh in my mind. I'm constantly asked by people, how do I become a coffee consultant? And this is it's one that is very intriguing to me because it seems like everybody wants to become a coffee consultant. And I am here to tell you a couple of things. One, being a coffee consultant is nowhere near as cool a lifestyle as you think it is. It is a wonderful experience to be a consultant that works in the coffee space, purely because if you do your job correctly, your client is going to fast track their learning by 10 years. That's the job of a coffee consultant. They will fast track their client's experience of everything, provided they present the information in the right way. But as long as that consultant has been in the industry. And that may seem completely ridiculous, but you are there as a consultant to open your client's mind to everything that they should see coming, that they probably won't see coming, and make them aware of the blind spots that are available to them. So for those of you who have been in the industry, and there are far too many people right now that have been in the industry for a couple of years and are starting to call themselves coffee consultants. To my standard, you shouldn't be calling yourself a coffee consultant until you've been doing a specific job in the industry for near on, I think, more than 10 years. So if you've been a coffee roaster for 10 years and doing it intensely and keeping up with all the new information and the new data and whatnot, then that's what you should be consulting in. That's if you're doing it solo. If you're going around and teaching people how to roast coffee and preparing, handouts and whatnot that you're going to need to do proper intense consulting, then go ahead and do it. But if you've been a barista or a roaster that's been roasting coffee or brewing coffee for 15 months, like I had someone contact me the other day, you're not ready to be a consultant. You are also not ready to be going and advising anyone on how to open a cafe. If you haven't been involved in opening your own cafe before or your own business, then you shouldn't be consulting, in my opinion, on somebody else opening up their own cafe. At the very, very least, for the last 10 years, you should have been involved in the pre-opening team and the opening team, management team of opening cafes for various different employers that you've worked for. So if you've been someone who your niche in your coffee career has been to be a store manager of an opening cafe, and you've worked for employers who are constantly opening new places, and that's what you've been doing for 10 years, then you, yes, should be somebody who is a consultant if they want to for helping people open cafes. But remember, when people are paying you as a consultant, they're not just paying you to teach them how to brew an espresso. They're not just asking you to show them how to roast coffee. There is so much more to doing the actual thing that we do in cafes than just the thing. And so the reason why I would advise you against becoming a cafe consultant or coffee consultant, if you haven't been doing the thing intensely for 10 years and don't have a lot of extra peripheral information behind it, is because you cannot see the blind spots. The biggest thing and the biggest value I see that consultants offer is that they look beyond the questions they're being asked by the client. So the client is typically somebody who hasn't been in the coffee industry and doesn't have any knowledge in how to do something, and they are looking for your expertise. Now, we're not just saying experience. There's a difference between experience and expertise. With expertise comes not only the foundational knowledge, but the network, an extensive network around what you're doing. It's an understanding of a lot of the things that your client will not have thought about. So, for example, this weekend I had the absolute pleasure of consulting to Baristas Bravos in Tijuana, Mexico, and it was exhilarating to watch these people transform from hopeful coffee professionals to real coffee professionals. And with that, day one, as if you've heard previous episodes in the last couple of episodes, day one was about roasting, day two was about the barista and brewing, and day three was about the cafe and culture. And this job was about opening up the very first tasting room in Tijuana, Mexico. And this was a big feat for the current brands that they have is called Das Cortes, and this is going to be the next level of the evolution of that brand. Think of it as fine dining for coffee. And so the approach to this business, I hadn't been involved in the building of Das Cortez. And so the way that we're looking at this is, asking questions that the team hadn't thought of before. What is your buying philosophy? And that was a really big question. Okay, what do you mean by buying philosophy, Lee? Okay, what do we want to have as a guideline that will tell us we will buy this coffee, we will not buy this coffee? So of course that led us to a discussion about, well, what are the core values of the business? And how are we going to react when we see a coffee that we want, but it doesn't fit in with our values? Being able to have these discussions from a place where you have personally had to make these decisions before is so valuable to these business owners. But knowing to ask these questions in the first place is even more valuable, because you may not have the answers to some things and you can't make these decisions for someone, but absolutely being able to ask someone these questions is a fundamental part of being a coffee consultant or a cafe consultant or a roasting consultant. The other great thing about having been in the industry for a long period of time is when you are doing these long few day or week-long consults, any of the parts that you don't know about, you can bring in experts to join you on the consult for the specific amount of time. And I had the pleasure of welcoming Elliot Renecki from Steady State Roasters, who is one of my favorite roasters in all of America, and he roasts for us for Elixir, come in and help fix a lot of the things that they hadn't seen as blind spots to their roasting. And Elliot's been roasting a long time. He was previously a professional athlete, and so the mindset that he brings to what he does, I've consulted for Elliot before, and the mindset that he brings to Steady State is something that I absolutely want to champion and put him in front of other roasters so that they can understand what it takes to be as good a roaster as he does and the mindset that's required to do that. And so the added bonus of being somebody who has an extensive network is that you can bring other experts in and put them in front of your clients and show them an example of what they could be aspiring to be, even if you haven't stepped into that position yourself. So look, this rings true not just for opening cafes and opening roasteries. This rings true for people who want to develop a cold brew brand. The number of people that have contacted me and saying, hey, I don't know how much to charge on this consult job. Somebody's approached me about helping them come up with a cold brew recipe. And I'm like, well, are they asking you to come up with a cold brew recipe, or are they asking you to come up with a cold brew product? And those are two very different things. Usually the response is, I don't know. And that sets red flags off for me immediately. If you don't know how to clarify what the consult job is exactly, I don't think you should be taking the job. And look, I say this because I don't want people to not be coffee consultants, just like I don't want people to not open cafes, but I do want the right people to be consultants. I do want the right people to be opening cafes. I do want the right people to be opening roasteries. And what defines the right person is someone who has put in the time and the effort to learn the skills and equip themselves with the best expertise and skills to give them the greatest chance at success at doing really well at what they're going to do. Currently in the cafe landscape, in most places, we're saturated. And so we don't need more people opening cafes. If anything, we need to help some people close cafes. What we need is more people who understand how to run businesses and understand coffee and understand what it is to work in a bar flow and sell to customers and come up with a food program. They're the people we need opening cafes, so that we're opening high standard, great quality cafes that are affordable for their future clientele and serves the coffee supply chain, because we are paying the producers of coffee really well. So hopefully that helps. If you are interested in getting in contact with Map It Forward for consultation, you can always email me directly, lee@mapitforward.org, and we can have a chat. If you are interested in becoming a coffee consultant and you have questions, head to our Instagram at imapitforward and put your comments in the comment section of the post that's related to this podcast episode, and I'll happily answer any questions that you have. On that note, peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day, friends.